Welcome to Thomas Energizer The Podcast, Episode 1. Yes, that's a good start, This is Thomas Energizer, and yes, this is my first kind of podcast ever, really. And, why not, I thought. A lot of you are sending me questions about me, about music, about everything, and it's very, very hard for me to answer all your questions. So I thought for myself, why not create a podcast? Yeah, it's a great idea, I'm not the first one, So now I will, in this first episode, try to answer some of your questions you sent for me, and let's start. The first question: the first song Thomas Energizer ever fall in love with? Yes. Well, I took some time thinking, and the first song I can remember that I really, really loved, it was in 1976. Actually, I was 4 years old, and I heard a song. It was called Moviestar. They sang Moviestar, Moviestar, ah. And I really loved that song. It was so amazing. I still can remember it, and I was only 4 years old. Later on, I discovered that this song was by a Swedish artist named Harpo. But I was too young at that age to realize that. So that song, really put me in this disco kind of area, I love that sound. And still today, when I hear this song, Moviestar by Harpo, I really love the sound, and a lot of songs today has this feeling as Moviestar. I even, named my teddy bear when I was 4 years old for Moviestar, because I love the song so much. Well, next question. The first record I ever bought. Yeah, and I think this, was in 1984. It was an album called Forever Young by Alphaville. And all of you know this album, it's magic. All the songs are totally, totally amazing. And the first single, Forever Young, you have Jet Set, Victory of Love, big in Japan, and I even did some vocal covers of these songs for my social media. It was really appreciated. You can still find these covers, but the original songs, they really, really are so amazing. Everything is perfect. The lyrics, the music, the arrangement, love it. Another interesting question, is my first relation to modern talking. A lot of people asks me about this. And actually this was in spring 1985. And I think I was 13 years old at that time. And I listened a lot to local radio stations. And one day I suddenly heard something on the radio that I never heard before. It was an electronic piano. It had an amazing sound. And the singer had a bright, beautiful singing voice. And the refrain, it was totally amazing. And then the falsetto parts. It was, I was totally, out of my mind. This was so great, and I had never heard a song like this before. 12 or 13 years old, and I had goosebumps, and the feeling that this was the best song I ever heard. Well, later on, I discovered the song was called You're My Heart, You're My Soul, and it was sung by Modern Talking, Thomas Anders, Dieter Bohlen. And I recorded this song, thousands of times on my tape recorder. And I called local radio stations over and over again to hear the song on the radio. And some of the radio stations, they even thought that I was some kind of promoter of Modern Talking in Sweden, because I called these radio stations, thousands of times, wanting to hear this You're My Heart, You're My Soul. But I was only 13 years old, My relationship to other songs of Modern Talking, and, after falling in love with this You're My Heart, You're My Soul, I thought for myself, well, it can't be possible for these guys, Modern Talking, to release another song in the same style that is as good as You're My Heart, You're My Soul. But I was totally wrong. They released You Can Win If You Want, and once again I was in heaven, The structure of the song was the same as You're My Heart, You're My Soul, but it was absolutely not a copy. First a nice intro, Thomas singing, soft and smooth, and then the refrain with a little bit background chorus, and then this once again amazing huge falsetto chorus. It was so great. And then I almost prayed for every release of Modern Talking to have this special sound, and they continued, Sherry Sherry Lady, Brother Louie, Atlantis Calling, and so on. Some of my friends at that time, this was, in 85, 86, they, especially the boys, wondered, how I, as a boy at that time, could love this band Modern Talking. They enjoyed other bands, like Depeche Mode, Kraftwerk, and the tougher guys, they listened to Kiss and Twisted Sisters. Yeah, that was heavy stuff at that time. I remember especially in 1986 when Modern Talking released the album In the Middle of Nowhere. And I knew that my local record shop would get this album in store a special day. So at lunchtime, I left school to visit this record shop, and I bought the album. And then I had to go back to school. So I asked the owner of the store if he could wrap this album into wrapping paper. And I said, this is a gift. I lied, of course. This was a gift for myself. But the reason was that I didn't want my friends, the boys, to see that I like this band Modern Talking. And I think this, is the same for a lot of guys out there remembering the 80s. Soon I discovered that Dieter Bohlen also wrote music for other artists, and he kept this kind of sound. Later on I discovered that this sound, is of course a success also by Luis Rodriguez, one of the most greatest sound engineers and producers over the world. Still going on, making music for his wife Leon Ross, and Mode 1 and other great stuff, Later on I found out that these high falsettos, they were not sang by Dieter Bohlen himself or Thomas Anders. Actually, they were sang by Rolf Köhler, Michael Scholz, Detlef Wiedeke, and Birger Collais at the first album. Rolf Köhler, Michael Schultz, and Detlef Wiedeke, they continued at, I think thousands of productions later on for Dieter Bohlen and other artists. And they are really, really fantastic, Well, suddenly I discovered this name Dieter Bohlen, and I continued, and I, collected every single song composed by Dieter Bohlen. If the name Dieter Bohlen was on a record, I just bought it. I didn't have to listen to it. I knew this was really, really good. Well, I will continue a little bit more about this story about me and Modern Talking. Modern Talking ended in autumn 1987. And then I thought my world would fall apart. How was it possible? Would everything end now? But a few weeks later, Dieter Bohlen had his second plan, his solo project, Blue System. He released the song Sorry Little Sarah and the first solo album, Walking on a Rainbow. And, still he had a great, fantastic talent to create fantastic songs. The difference between Modern Talking and Blue System was that the music was a little bit tougher sometimes. If you listen to Gangster Love or 48 Hours or songs like that, it's a little bit rougher, but still very, very beautiful and amazing productions. These refrains of Blue System were, of course, sang by Michael, Rolf, and Detlef, and they gave the songs a really, really, really power kick. You first heard Dieter's tender voice, as I think it is. A lot of people say, "Oh, Dieter can't sing," But for me, when I hear Dieter Bohlen, I hear a lot of sensitivity in his voice. And I think I'm not alone about that. But when the refrain came, everything exploded, These guys, the three guys, Michael, Rolf, and Detlef, they just, it was like thunder. So amazing, great. This, my friends, was the first episode of my kind of podcast. I talked a little bit about myself, about music, and I hope you enjoyed it. I will continue, of course, if you like it, and if you have questions you want me to answer in this podcast, don't hesitate. Just write them down and post them as a comment, and I will try to answer them in my next episode of Thomas Energizer, the podcast. See you.